Welcome back into the Sports Source. This segment brought to you by the Topoco Lodge. Hey, get yourself a room, suite, or cabin at the Topoco Lodge. Book it this week. You can do so at topoco.com. You can also follow them on Facebook. They're all over social media. And the Topoco Tavern is open as well. Now, they've got 50% seating, I still believe. So you'll want to call ahead, make a reservation. But what a great place. If you've never been, get up there, check it out. Just fantastic. It's only 60 miles outside of Knoxville, right on a rushing river beside the restaurant, beside I mean, literally, if you're one of these people that uses one of those white noise machines to sleep, you don't even need one because you hear the river beside you. It's spectacular. The Topoco Lodge. See for yourself at topoco.com. Okay, take a look at this next graphic. What you got in terms of rebuilding versus good teams. I went back to 2007. That's when Nick Saban first arrived at Alabama, okay? And Alabama had been scheduling pretty poorly under Mike Shula. As soon as Saban arrived, bang. Florida State, Clemson, Virginia Tech, Penn State. And remember, he had to rebuild Alabama. He didn't do so by saying, hey, let's shirk all the other Power 5 schools. Georgia has been up and down. If you see on this list, some of these are purple. Those are years when a team played 2 or 3. Georgia in 2009 played Oklahoma State, Arizona State, and Georgia Tech. That's impressive. LSU had 2 years where they played 2 Power 5 schools. Florida's done it several times, playing Miami and Florida State 3 occasions, Michigan and Florida State. Auburn has except for 1 year there, and Tennessee's had 2 in the past few years where they didn't play a Power 5 school, and they got another one coming up. Auburn had one. Out of all those teams that have all had their ups and downs in this time, they've all rebuilt while playing power teams. Guys, you know, the old saying, you are what you eat, I think there's truth to that. I think if you live on cupcakes and cream puffs, it's going to turn you into a cream puff program. I don't think it helps you dig out. None of those big boys dug out by playing chump schedules. And part of the reason is I think a recruit is going to be more likely, and you kind of touched on this in the last segment, I think a recruit's going to be more likely to talk about Alabama, Texas, or Alabama, USC than they are Tennessee, BYU, or Tennessee, Pitt.
Oh, yeah. I mean, if you're talking to a recruit, you might avoid telling them that you have this game coming up. Don't tune into this one because they'll be checking out those big boys. So I totally agree. You get tougher playing those kinds of teams. You build the mindset of we're going to go up and play against the best to show that we're the best. Of course, you have to actually go show it. You need to go win some of these games, but you just pointed to the teams that did it. LSU, one of those years where it played 2 Power 5 non-conference opponents, went to the national championship game that season. It can be done.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's no correlation that a soft schedule leads you to being able to win the national championship, but that's what you need to come back to national prominence. Those examples that John, you showed are in concert with having a talented roster and recruiting on a high level. And guess who's starting to do that now? Jeremy Pruitt. Jeremy Pruitt's also talked about we want to compete for championships, not talking about moral losses, moral victories and losses, things like that. He talks about the big picture, and this is how you want to be as college football. You want to compete with the big boys and win championships. So his mindset, I think, is to play a tougher schedule, but Tennessee has not shown that to this point. You got to have the players to be able to handle that kind of schedule, and it looks like they're going in that direction.
Although I will say there are some of those guys that did it before Nick Saban, first year, he didn't have the roster he had in the second and third year, they immediately had Florida State on there.
But, he was still recruiting at a high level.
Not the first year, but the first year he got there.
Right.
Is what I'm talking about.
Right.
Okay, that's fine. Let's disagree. I don't think you have to swim around with small fish just because you're losing. I think be aspirational.
Right.
Try and beat a big boy.
I totally agree with that. I'm just saying that he was a special case because they jumped right on being able to bring in a bunch of 4 and 5 stars. They didn't have the depth and the machine that they do now, but he was able to at least have some talent to work with to handle a schedule like that and be able to get better. So I still think you need both to a degree, but I'm totally with you that the tougher schedule is the way to go.
And you know who saw firsthand what you just showed on the screen? Jeremy Pruitt. He was there at Alabama in 2007, so he was a part of what they were facing, not as the head coach, of course, but he was an assistant with Nick Saban. He saw what they were doing. Same at Georgia when they're playing all those teams. He was at Florida State for 1 year, and they were built at that point. But he's seen firsthand going up against the best and recruiting to go get players to play those teams.
Yeah, I mean, Kirby Smart. All right, so Georgia has taken a jump. Mark Richt had them way up there, but they've taken a jump up. They didn't do it by, okay, let's ease off on the schedule.
Right.
They went in the other direction, So I just think that if you want to be a big boy, you got to run with the big boys. And if you're Tennessee, and over the next decade, you only have 6 games with Power 5 opponents, 2 of those are Pitt, you got your work cut out for you. Go get. So many of these coaches go, I see where Utah is on Florida's schedule. Okay, that's more than likely Dan Mullen. He was at Utah for a while under Urban Meyer. So many of these coaches go up against teams that they have a tie to. All right, Florida State's playing everybody else in the SEC.
Right.
Jeremy Pruitt was at Florida State. How about trying to find a way to get Florida State on Tennessee's schedule? That would be entertaining.
Maybe Florida State's trying to find a way to get in the SEC.
So, all right. When we come back, what do the odds makers think about this year's Tennessee team in terms of their SEC rivals? Where do they stack up with those national championship odds, SEC odds? What's that tell us? And Chuck will tell you where the smart money is if you're going to place a future bet. Come on back on the Sports Source.